I am Emily Harper, 32 years old, a software engineer from Seattle, with a head for code that cuts through chaos, but zero tolerance for family lies anymore. Last Christmas, I thought exposing the truth would finally force some accountability. Instead, it became the detonator that blew our so-called close-knit family to pieces. 3 months after I shattered everything, my phone lit up again, another blocked number, but I knew it was her. Jessica calling from that dingy homeless shelter in Capitol Hill, her voice cracking on the voicemail. Please? The kids? We have nothing left. I deleted it without a second thought, my thumb hovering over the screen as the 47th call from Mom flashed incoming. I hit ignore, staring out at the rain-streaked window of my office downtown. Flashback to that holiday morning, the living room packed with aunts, uncles, cousins, all buzzing over eggnog and forced cheer. I slid the sleek folder across the coffee table toward Jessica, my voice steady. Merry Christmas, sis. Your surprise gift, $50,000 in unpaid bills, all documented. Her eyes widened as she flipped it open, the pages spilling out landlord notices, forged loan signatures, drained pension statements. What the hell is this? She spat, crumpling the top sheet and hurling it at my face. Mom exploded from her chair. You stingy brat, you're not my daughter. Laughter rippled through the room at first, then froze as I stood folder in hand. This isn't a joke, it's reality, and I'm done funding your mess. I walked out into the downpour, their shouts chasing me down the driveway. Who knew one folder could unravel a lifetime of enabling? If you've ever been the family fixer who got played, you get it. The burn hits different. Before I dive deeper into how that gift triggered the total collapse, drop a comment. Where are you tuning in from? Smash that like if unappreciated help ever backfired on you, and subscribe for more no-holds-barred takedowns of toxic family games. Now let's rewind to the spark that lit the fuse. A week before that explosive morning, the first crack appeared during a routine coffee run with Grandma Evelyn. She was 78, her hands trembling slightly as she stirred her latte at our usual spot in Fremont, the one with the mismatched mugs and view of the ship canal. We'd always bonded over these meetups, me venting about code bugs, her sharing stories from her teaching days before retirement. But that afternoon, her eyes darted around like she was checking for eavesdroppers. Emily, honey. She started, voice barely above a whisper, leaning in so close I could smell her rosewater lotion. I need to tell you something. It's about Jessica. She asked me for a loan last month. $15,000. Said it was for the kids' braces, but now I'm not sure. My stomach dropped, but I kept my face neutral, nodding for her to go on. She had me sign some papers at her kitchen table. Quick, like it was no big deal. But the check cleared from my savings, and she hasn't mentioned repayment. I thought it was family helping family, but her story keeps changing. I pulled out my phone right there, pretending to check emails while pulling up her bank app on the sly. The transaction stared back a wire to Jessica's account dated October 15th, with a memo reading Emergency Family Fund. No braces receipt in sight. Grandma, did she show you any proof, invoices or anything? Evelyn shook her head, her silver curls bobbing. No, just her word. And a hug. She hugged me tight and said, "You're the best, Grandma. We'll pay it back double." I forced a smile, but inside gears were already turning. Jessica had pulled this before, small favors that snowballed into silence, but 15 grand from our grandma's fixed income that crossed a line. By evening, back in my condo overlooking Lake Union, I couldn't shake it. I fired up my laptop, the one rigged for secure audits from work, and dove into the family finances I'd been tracking informally for years. It started as a spreadsheet for my own sanity loans to Jessica medical copays for the kids. Even that time she borrowed for a down payment on their Capitol Hill rental. But now, with Evelyn's confession fresh, I cross-referenced bank statements I'd gotten access to through our shared family safe deposit box. The pattern emerged like bad code in a debug session, 15 years of quiet manipulation. There was the $2,000 from 2010 when Jessica needed it for community college books, but dropped out after 1 quarter, no grades to show. Then 5 grand in 2015 for Tyler's business startup that fizzled into barista shifts. And don't get me started on the 7,000 last year for Mia's dance classes. Turns out it funded a weekend getaway to Portland while Mia practiced in hand-me-downs. Each entry had the same hallmarks: vague excuses, tearful promises, and zero follow-through. Jessica wasn't just bad with money, she was engineering it, playing on our soft spots: grandma's generosity, mom's guilt, dad's avoidance of confrontation. Digging deeper, I logged into the pension portal Dad had shared ages ago for tax help. What I found hit like a system crash: an unauthorized withdrawal of $8,000 from his construction union fund dated 3 months back. The signature line forged to look like his, but the timestamp didn't match his overtime logs. I'd seen those emails. Jessica must have swiped his login during a family dinner when he stepped out for a smoke. The funds traced straight to her freelance graphic design account, which hadn't seen a client payout in 6 months. Tyler's name popped up too as a joint signer, but no alerts raised. How long had they been dipping into Dad's retirement, the one he'd earned swinging hammers for 30 years? I slammed the laptop shut, pacing the hardwood floors, rain pattering against the floor-to-ceiling windows. This wasn't incompetence anymore. It was theft, wrapped in sisterly smiles. But the real gut punch came at midnight when my phone buzzed with a voicemail from Mia's school. Ms. Harper, this is Principal Reyes. We're reaching out about Mia's lunch account. It's overdrawn again. She mentioned her mom said Aunt Emily might cover it. We hate to bother family, but... The message cut off, but I could hear the little hitch in her voice from earlier that week when she'd called during recess. Aunt Em, why can't Mommy pay for my school lunch? The other kids get chicken nuggets, but I have to take the free sandwich. It tastes funny. That innocent question delivered in her 8-year-old lisp replayed on loop. Mia, with her freckles and endless questions about my computer magic, didn't deserve this fallout from her parents' mess. Logan at 6 was already mimicking Jessica's excuses, hiding report cards like they were state secrets. I'd enabled it all, writing checks, smoothing edges, believing blood meant blind trust. No more. That night, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, something flipped. I wasn't the fixer anymore, the one who patched leaks with my savings. I was done being the safety net for a spider's web of deceit. From enabler to strategic nemesis, that's when the real plan took shape. Over the next few days, I mapped it all out on a secure drive, turning raw data into a weapon sharper than any bug I'd ever squashed at work. I started with the financial exposure portfolio, a digital folder labeled Harper Family Ledger Unfiltered. It wasn't some casual spreadsheet anymore. This was a full forensic breakdown pieced together from bank exports, email trails, and public records I'd pulled via my firm's compliance tools. First entry: the $50,000 in landlord debt Jessica owed on their Capitol Hill 2-bedroom 3 months behind, plus late fees stacking like interest on a bad loan. I'd called the property manager anonymously the day after Evelyn's confession, posing as a potential renter to confirm the arrears. "Yeah, Brooks Harper account's a mess," he'd grumbled. "Eviction papers ready if they miss December." Perfect timing for the holidays. Next, I layered in Evelyn's $15,000 secret loan, scanned the contract she'd emailed me in a panic that night, highlighting Jessica's forged notary stamp sloppy work, but enough to void it under Washington state fraud laws. I cross-checked against Jessica's freelance invoices from her Upwork profile. 0 gigs in 4 months, but Venmo transfers to girls' night bars downtown totaled $2,000. Then Dad's $8,000 pension hit. I screenshot the union portal logs, noting the IP address traced to Jessica's home Wi-Fi during his last site visit. Forgery 101, but devastating tampering with ERISA-protected funds could trigger IRS audits if reported. Research kicked into high gear that Tuesday evening, rain hammering my balcony as I tabbed through Washington statutes on my second monitor. Eviction under RCW 59.18 landlords needed a 14-day pay or quit notice, but with proof of fraud, tenants like Jessica faced immediate unlawful detainer suits. Bankruptcy. Chapter 7 wiped unsecured debts, but her freelance income, spotty as it was, might disqualify her from full discharge, leaving judgments hanging like liens on any future assets. I bookmarked Nolo's guides and the WA State Bar's pro bono eviction defense page. Memorizing thresholds over $50,000 in liabilities meant automatic means test failure for her household. Jessica's pride was her Achilles. Social media posts, bragging about creative hustles while hiding overdrafts. Her dependencies. Total Tyler's barista tips barely covered groceries. Kids' school fees ate the rest, and without my bailouts, the dominoes toppled fast. My tactical advantages stacked up: clean, spotless credit score in the 780s from years of solo budgeting, liquid assets from my engineer salary, over 100,000 in high-yield savings, untouchable. Family trust. I'd been the executor on Evelyn's will since Grandpa passed, giving me leverage to flag discrepancies. Jessica's image obsession made her vulnerable too. Those Instagram reels of mompreneur life with filtered filters and sponsored hauls. One leak of the ledger to mutual cousins and her network crumbled. I even ran a quick vulnerability scan on her public profiles, open privacy settings, geotagged posts at eviction risk addresses. Child's play. The weapon crystallized by Thursday. Not just a stack of bills, but the complete audit, a glossy presentation folder with tabbed sections, each page notarized where possible, backed by affidavits I'd draft from Evelyn and Dad. Cover letter in legalese, disclosure of familial financial misrepresentations effective immediately. No more vague notes. This was a takedown dossier designed to hit during gift exchange, when eyes were on her most. I'd printed at the office, Kinko's binded in faux leather for that corporate sting. Timeline locked in Friday morning over black coffee. Deliver December 25th post-dinner when booze loosened tongues. 14-day eviction clock starts December 26th if landlord acted on my anonymous tip by New Year's. Sheriffs at the door. Bankruptcy filing. She'd scramble mid-January, but with exposed fraud, creditors like the landlord pounced first, freezing assets. Kids' custody. Tyler, already grumbling in their joint texts I'd glimpsed via shared iCloud, would bolt at the first court-ordered financials. Total collapse by February, leaving Jessica isolated, credit trashed below 500, freelance blacklisted in Seattle's tight creative scene. Psychological prep came last that weekend in a quiet spin class downtown, sweat blurring my focus as I visualized the drop. Jessica's face, those sharp cheekbones, flushing red eyes, darting for escape routes, mouth opening in that fake sweet plea. It's not what it looks like. Mom's gasp turning to fury, Dad's silence cracking into quiet nods. The room's hush as pages flipped, whispers rippling to aunts and uncles. I'd stand tall, voice even. This ends now. No yelling, no tears, just facts, cold and cutting. In the mirror between sets, I practiced the exhale, chest loosening for the first time in years. This wasn't spite. It was severance, the code rewrite I'd delayed too long. By Sunday night, the folder sat ready on my desk, a sleek black rectangle promising the reset I deserved. Christmas morning arrived, the Seattle rain drumming a steady beat against my windshield as I pulled into Mom and Dad's driveway in Ravenna. Their craftsman house glowed with string lights, a glowing reindeer staked in the muddy lawn masking the chaos I was about to unleash. I clutched the faux leather presentation folder, its weight heavier than the code I'd debugged for years. Inside, the extended family, Aunt Diane, Uncle Greg, cousins Sarah, Ben, and Riley, would be there, sipping spiked cider, swapping stories. Maximum witnesses for maximum impact. I'd timed it down to the minute post-dinner when Jessica's guard would be loose, her ego primed for the annual gift exchange spotlight. I stepped inside, the air thick with cinnamon and forced cheer, everyone sprawled across the living room's plaid couches. Mom bustled in her Santa apron, Dad nursed a beer by the fireplace, and Jessica, in a glittery sweater, played perfect mom snapping selfies with Mia and Logan. Riley caught my eye from the corner, his teacher's calm masking curiosity. He'd always been my ally since we were kids sneaking cookies. I set the folder under the tree, its red ribbon blending with the wrapping paper chaos, and joined the buffet line, dodging small talk about my fancy tech job. Dinner dragged Jessica, dominating with tales of her freelance comeback, each word tightening my resolve. Gift exchange started at 7:30 sharp, kids first. Mia squealed over a robotics kit I'd slipped her. Logan tore into a dinosaur puzzle, small gestures to shield them from what was coming. Then my turn. I stood heart steady and handed Jessica the folder with a tight smile. "Merry Christmas, sis. Something special for you." The room leaned in, eyes curious as she untied the ribbon, flipping open the cover. Her smirk froze as she scanned the first page, a landlord's legal notice, $50,000 in red ink, stamped, "Final Demand." Murmurs rippled. "What's this?" she snapped, flipping faster. I didn't flinch. "Keep going. Document 2. Grandma Evelyn's $15,000 loan contract." Her forged signature circled in red. Gasps, Evelyn's hand flew to her chest. "Document 3. Dad's pension statement, $8,000 gone, IP logs pinned to Jessica's Wi-Fi." Dad's beer bottle hit the coffee table hard. "Document 4. My own ledger, $10,000 in unrepaid loans to Jessica, dated back to 2012, each entry a stab of betrayal." Her face cycled like a crashing app, confusion brows knitting as she read, anger lips curling as she crumpled the landlord notice, panic eyes darting to Tyler, who stared back, jaw tight, desperation voice cracking. This is a mistake, right? Tell them." Mom shot up her apron, twisting in her fists. "You planned this, Emily. You're tearing this family apart." Her voice hit like a freight train, echoing the stingy brat venom I'd braced for. The room split, Diane whispered to Greg, Sarah, and Ben froze. Riley's nod, subtle but firm. Jessica lunged forward, shoving the folder at me, pages scattering like ash. "You're just jealous I have a real family," she hissed, her manicured nails grazing my arm. I stepped back, voice cold as the rain outside. "Like you plan to rob us blind, sis. Grandma's savings, Dad's pension, my trust done." The final blow landed like a server shutdown. "As of tonight, I'm cutting all financial support. No more loans, no more fixes. You're on your own." Silence swallowed the room, heavier than the Christmas carols looping faintly. Jessica's eyes welled, not with remorse, but cornered rage. Mom's glare burned, Dad's head hung low, and Evelyn's soft sob broke the quiet. I turned, grabbed my coat from the hall rack, and walked out, the folder tucked under my arm. Rain soaked my hair as I crossed the lawn, their voices spiking behind me, Mom's pleas, Jessica's curses, Tyler's low mutter. Riley's footsteps followed briefly, his hand grazing my shoulder before I waved him off. The driveway blurred as I hit the gas, the folder's edge digging into my palm, a reminder this wasn't chaos, it was clarity. By Christmas night, the fallout hit like a server overload, cascading faster than I'd modeled. I was halfway across Seattle, rain smearing my windshield, when my phone started buzzing. Jessica's name flashing, first 3 calls in 10 minutes, all ignored. I pulled into a deserted Starbucks lot on Pike Street, engine idling, and checked her voicemails. You can't do this to me," she hissed, voice jagged. "Call me back, we'll fix it." Another, "The kids need. You don't punish them." Typical play guilt through Mia and Logan. I deleted them, my thumb steady, and glanced at the folder on the passenger seat, its edges damp from the storm. By December 26th, the landlord moved. I'd emailed him a heads-up from a burner account before dinner, citing public records of Jessica's arrears, $50,000 in unpaid rent, legal notices attached. His response pinged at 8 a.m., "Pay or quit notice, served today." Sheriff's next if no payment by January 9th. Washington's 14-day eviction clock was ticking, and Jessica's texts shifted to panic. "They're at my door. Talk to them, please. I didn't reply. Social media lit up her Instagram story a shaky clip of moving boxes captioned, "Rough patch, send good vibes." Friends messaged me screenshots asking what happened. I kept silent, letting the truth simmer. December 27th, Tyler cracked. I got a forwarded text from Riley, who'd been at the house when it went down. Tyler cornered Jessica in their kitchen voice, low but sharp. "You hid 50 grand in debt and grandma's money." "What else, Jess?" She stammered, blaming bad clients, but he wasn't buying it. His follow-up text to Riley: "I'm done. Lawyers drafting divorce papers tomorrow." The financial exposure I'd laid bare, $15,000 from Evelyn, $8,000 from Dad's pension, was splitting their marriage like dry timber. Mia and Logan's school called me that afternoon, a secretary's voice clipped, "Lunch accounts overdrawn again." "Jessica said you'd cover." I declined politely, heart-twisting for the kids, but firm. By December 28th, I made my move. Sitting in my condo, rain still pelting the windows, I blocked Jessica's number, then Mom's Lisa's venomous texts piling up. "You've ruined us. Emily, fix this." Aunt Diane, Uncle Greg, Sarah, Ben, all blocked their messages, a mix of please and blame. Dad's number stayed open. He hadn't texted yet, but I sensed his silence was cracking. Riley was the exception, his text simple. "You okay?" I saw it all. Brutal, but fair. I replied, "Thanks for having my back," and saved his contact as my only family lifeline. The dominoes kept falling, tracked through whispers and digital trails. Jessica's credit card applications, too. Chase 1 Amex got rejected by noon, her 450 FICO score leaking through a mutual friend's banking job. Her freelance clients, a small Seattle design circle, started pulling contracts. I saw the emails forwarded by a cousin's friend: "Can't work with unreliable vendors." The school sent another notice about Mia and Logan's unpaid lunch fees, now at $700, with a warning about truancy if unresolved. Jessica's LinkedIn profile went dark, her open-to-work badge a desperate flare no one answered. Social media betrayed her spiral posts. Deleted friends, unfollowed a vague tweet about betrayal that got 0 likes. I monitored it all from my laptop curled on my couch, a glass of Pinot in hand. Not out of glee, but necessity. Every ping confirmed the portfolio's impact. Mutual friends texted updates Jessica spotted arguing with Tyler outside a U-Haul rental, her voice carrying across the lot. Another saw her at a pawn shop trying to offload a bracelet Grandma had gifted her for graduation. I didn't intervene. The market would shut her down. Seattle's pawn scene cross-checked stolen goods, and I'd already flagged the piece to a dealer friend. Each move she made hit a wall, my exposure locking her options tight. The power shift settled in my chest like oxygen after a sprint. For years, I'd been the family ATM, dispensing cash to plug their leaks, absorbing their jabs about my empty single life. Now I held the cards, not because I wanted to destroy, but because I'd forced accountability. Jessica's lies, Mom's enabling, Tyler's complicity. They'd built this house of cards, not me. As the rain slowed to a drizzle, my phone stayed quiet for the first time in hours. The blocked numbers, a firewall I'd never dared raise before. The folder sat on my coffee table, a silent testament to the reset I'd triggered, no turning back. By the second week of January, the reckoning crashed hard, like a system failure no reboot could fix. Jessica's eviction landed on January 3rd, sheriffs hauling boxes to the curb of her Capitol Hill rental under a gray Seattle drizzle. A mutual friend's text confirmed it. Saw Jess loading a U-Haul with Tyler. She looked wrecked. The $50,000 landlord debt exposed in my folder had triggered Washington's 14-day pay or quit notice, and she'd missed the deadline. No cash. No extensions. Her name was mud, with every leasing office in town by January 5th blacklisted on tenant screening apps. Tyler filed for divorce on January 4th, his lawyer citing financial instability in the paperwork. Riley forwarded me the court docket screenshot custody battle for Mia, and Logan kicked off with Tyler's attorney leaning hard on Jessica's hidden debts: $50,000 to the landlord, $15,000 to grandma, $8,000 from dad's pension as evidence of neglect. Tyler's texts to Riley, which I saw later, were brutal. "She lied to me for years. I'm done playing broke dad." Jessica's counterclaim of frantic scribble about family betrayal didn't hold up. The judge scheduled a hearing for late January custody, leaning toward Tyler's stable barista income over her zero. Lisa's health buckled under the strain by January 7th. A cousin's DM relayed the news mom landed in urgent care with a hypertension spike, her blood pressure hitting 180/110 from sleepless nights arguing with Jessica. She texted me from the hospital bed, "Emily, you've destroyed us. Help with my bills, please." I stared at the message, ice in my veins, and left it on read. Years of her enabling Jessica's scams, brushing off my loans as family duty, had built this mess. I wasn't her ATM anymore. Dad broke his silence on January 8th, calling from his truck after a shift. He said, voice rough like gravel. I checked the pension logs. "You were right about Jess forging my name. I'm sorry I didn't see it." His words hit harder than I expected, a crack in his usual sideline stance. He didn't ask me to fix anything, just said, "I'm with you now." I exhaled, not forgiving yet, but noting his shift. Kevin Harper, the guy who'd worked 30 years swinging hammers, was finally waking up. Jessica's desperation moves spiraled by January 10th. She tried selling Grandma's heirloom bracelet at a Fremont pawn shop, but I'd already tipped off my dealer contact. They rejected her, citing questionable provenance. Next, she applied for a loan, using Mom and Dad's Ravenna house as collateral, $4,000 to restart. I got wind through Riley and called Lisa's bank, posing as a concerned daughter to flag the application as fraud risk. It was denied within hours, Lisa's credit frozen. Jessica's final play, a bankruptcy consultation. Her lawyer's email leaked via a family friend was blunt: insufficient assets for Chapter 7. Judgments will stick. Her $50,000 debt plus fraud flags locked her out of relief. I countered every move from my condo, my laptop screen glowing with updates. I sent Tyler's lawyer a zipped file of the portfolio landlord notices, forged contracts, pension logs via a secure Dropbox link time-stamped for court admissibility. It strengthened his custody case, citing Jessica's pattern of deceit. I didn't gloat. This was surgical, not personal. Seattle's tight-knit community turned fast. Diane and Greg stopped inviting Jessica to dinners. Sarah and Ben unfollowed her on Instagram, and mutual friends whispered about her crash and burn at coffee shops. A LinkedIn recruiter I knew passed on her resume, citing reliability concerns after a tip about her client cancellations. The community fallout sealed her spiral. By January 12th, Jessica's name was a cautionary tale in Seattle's creative circles. No gallery wanted her half-finished designs, no startup touched her pitches. A barista friend saw her at a job fair handing out resumes for retail gigs, her usual swagger gone. I tracked it all through texts and posts, not out of spite, but strategy, ensuring the truth I'd exposed stuck. Riley's message summed it up. "Jess is radioactive now. You flipped the script." The power I'd felt Christmas night hardened into certainty. My family's house of lies had collapsed, and I wasn't rebuilding it. Dad's call lingered in my mind, the only thread I hadn't cut, but even that felt like a formality now. 6 months later, by June, Jessica's world had crumbled to a shadow of her old Instagram glow. She was scraping by on a minimum wage cashier job at a Fremont grocery. Her freelance design gigs dried up after clients blacklisted her for missed deadlines. A friend's text showed her in a shared Ballard apartment, walls thin as paper, with weekend custody of Mia and Logan Tyler. One primary custody, his lawyer's case airtight, thanks to my portfolio's evidence. Jessica's credit score tanked below 400 after filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy, the $50,000 landlord debt and fraud flags, chaining her to a decade of financial exile. She'd posted one last vague tweet, starting over no thanks to family before going offline, shunned by Seattle's creative scene. I meanwhile hit the ground running. My tech firm promoted me to lead engineer in April, my name on a patent for a fraud detection algorithm that felt like poetic justice. The Seattle Times ran a blurb on my volunteer work at a local food bank, where I'd started counseling families on debt recovery, ironic, given my own family's collapse. My inbox pinged with invites to speak at community panels, my voice steady as I shared tips on financial boundaries, never mentioning the personal cost. My condo, once a quiet retreat, now buzzed with new friends, coders, artists, neighbors who saw me as Emily, not the family fixer. The new family order took shape fast. Dad called me in March, his voice softer than I'd ever heard. I was wrong to stay quiet, he said, parked outside his construction site. Jess conned us all, and I let it slide. Can we start over? I met him for coffee in Pioneer Square, his weathered hands gripping the mug as he promised to respect my limits. I nodded, not fully trusting, but open to rebuilding. Grandma Evelyn rewrote her will in May, naming me sole beneficiary of her modest estate, $20,000 in savings plus her Ravenna cottage. Jessica can't be trusted, she wrote in a letter, her handwriting shaky but firm. I didn't gloat. It was her choice, not mine. Riley stepped up as my lieutenant, the cousin who'd always had my back. He organized family Zoom calls, subtly sidelining Diane and Greg's gossip about Emily's stunt. When Sarah tried guilting me at a cousin's barbecue, Mia misses you, Riley shut it down. She's got Emily's number. Call her. His teacher's calm masked a fierce loyalty, cementing our bond as the only family tie I kept tight. Mom stayed radio silent, her hypertension meds piling up after a second urgent care visit in February, per Riley's update. I didn't reach out. Her stingy brat scream still echoed a wall I wouldn't climb again. My power move came at Thanksgiving, hosted at my condo overlooking Lake Union. I invited Dad, Riley, new friends from my food bank shifts, even Mia and Logan via Tyler, no Jessica. The table groaned with roasted turkey, garlic, mashed potatoes, and my homemade cranberry chutney, laughter filling the air without a single jab at my tech life. Dad raised a glass, eyes misty, to Emily, who showed us what strength looks like. Mia, clutching her robotics kit, whispered, Aunt Em, can we visit more? Logan nodded, his dinosaur puzzle half built on the floor. I smiled, promising weekend coding lessons, my heart full, but guarded. The final victory landed quietly a week later when Tyler forwarded a text from Mia. Can we stay with Aunt Emily sometimes? She's cooler than Mom. Logan's doodle of a robot labeled Aunt Em came attached to their trust, a lifeline I hadn't expected. I didn't break my family, I revealed who they really were. Liars and enablers unmasked by their own choices. The folder wasn't revenge. It was truth, cutting cleaner than any code I'd written. My new empire friends who valued me, a career-soaring kids who saw me as their hero, rose from the ashes of their collapse. I leaned back in my office chair, rain streaking the Seattle skyline outside, and felt like steel. Sometimes being the villain in their story means becoming the hero in your own. Those who called me selfish, who begged for bailouts, were now begging for scraps of my time. I didn't owe them a dime, not a call, not a glance. My life was mine now, built on boundaries no one could breach.